Good morning and welcome to the 30 October Board of Directors meeting. If I could invite you to stand with me, please, and we'll do our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, good morning. I'm Matt Cambick. I'm your president, and I'll ask everybody at the head table to introduce themselves.
Dan Lendiger, Vice President.
Mark Eckert, Treasurer.
Sean Kreiderman, Secretary.
Chuck Hill, Director.
Denise Lexell, Director.
Larry Santora, Assistant Treasurer.
Walter Yazzie, General Manager.
Charlie Chalice, Recording Secretary.
Thank you, mates. The first order of business is to approve the minutes of the September 25 Board of Directors meeting. May I have a motion, please?
I move that we approve the minutes from the September Board of Directors meeting.
And do I have a second? Second. Discussion? The board? Any discussion with our members? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the September 25 Board of Directors meeting minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous, Charlie. We'll next do our strategic plan update. I'll start, and I'll be followed by Mark and Chuck. They're going to give you some details. First slide, please. First slide, please. Okay. There's our mission statement. Saddlebrook HOA 2 offers an outstanding active adult lifestyle to our homeowners and guests by combining our majestic natural desert and mountain landscapes with a broad variety of amenities and activities, well-maintained facilities, and quality services. Next slide, please. Our vision: to be the premier active adult community of choice in southern Arizona. Next slide. Our values: the acronym RAISE: respect, accountability, integrity, service, and excellence. And underneath all of those are a couple of bullets to provide definition of what our intent was when we implemented those values. Next slide. And so, as I told the chairman this morning, residents do pay attention to this meeting. Even though they're not sitting here, they watch it at home. And I had a resident that queried me and said, Matt, I appreciate the red, amber, green charts. What does it mean? And so it dawned on me I never provided definitions for what red or amber or green might mean. And so when you see the stoplight charts going forward, this is the definition. Red indicates that we have a problem or something has not been done yet. Amber indicates that we have an action that is in progress. And green indicates that something is complete or going well, which means it's on track for what we intend to have happen. Next slide. Mark.
Thanks. So the next step in the process is for me to give just a quick overview from financial stewardship goal 3. Just to review, that is to ensure that the HOA finances are well managed, providing sufficient revenues to fund operations, facilities, depreciation, and provide the resources to achieve our mission. So there's 7 of those objectives that exist. I'll just read through them real quick here. The review the systems and budgets to achieve financial success, deliver our mission value proposition, develop an easy-to-read dashboard for reporting finances to the residents, establish and stay committed to annually updating a rolling 5-year forecast to identify operating costs and revenue requirements, maintain and annually review the capital reserve study to analyze assets, predict major repairs, and plan the funding requirements. Okay, you already got it. Next slide, okay. Continue to distribute the financial information disclosing the results of operations and the capital financing program to members on a monthly basis. establish a process for periodic review of KPIs for revenue-generating amenities and report to the board, and produce and maintain a 10-year replacement reserve budget synchronized with the strategic plan and the master plan. So the next slide, which does have a little bit of a typo, it's goal 3, not goal 4 objectives, but no big deal. So just a quick review of where we are with those. Review the systems and budgets to achieve financial success. We are continuing to always do that, so that certainly is an objective that we've met. Develop an easy-to-read dashboard for reporting finances. Terry has already been working on that. You can see that we've made, I think, some big improvements in the way we show the reporting, but it's still a work in progress, so it's still something that we're trying to continue to improve, but it is, I think, a big improvement from what we've had before. Annually update a rolling 5-year forecast for operating and reserve budgets. That is something we do now. It exists. We continue to update it as things occur every month, but that exists and is being used. Maintain and annually review the capital reserve study. Again, that is something that is already being in process. We are in the process of annually reviewing it right now. Probably needs to have some large changes or major changes to have more accurate funding estimates, but it certainly is something that is already in process, and so that's being done. Produce and distribute financial reports on a monthly basis. Again, we are doing that. Terry's done a lot of work to improve the quality of them and make them more readable. But it's, again, something that's still being worked on to try to continue to improve that. Reviewing KPIs for revenue-generating amenities. Again, something that's always being worked on. It's not done, but it is in process and continuing to be worked on. And then the last one, produce and maintain a 10-year replacement reserve budget. It's actually pretty much been created. It's something that always has to be updated. So I don't know if I'd call that a yellow or a green. It does exist. It's something that I work with all the time, but it's definitely something that's still continually being worked on. So that's kind of a quick summary of where we are with those goals from a financial standpoint.
Chuck, you will move along to favorite place dining.
Yes, our Goal 5, favorite place dining, to make Saddlebrook 2 the dining destination of choice by providing superior food, beverage, and service, and to enhance the membership experience. Goal 5 objectives. Use feedback from members to measure success. Provide a sufficient budget to meet members' training and staffing expectations. Develop a say yes mentality. Add daily, weekly specials to supplement the core menu items. Add small plates, more variety to the menu, healthy options. Provide better outdoor and casual dining venue. Evaluate the reservation system and policies, and set a member satisfaction goal and measure progress. You'll see from the objectives, the first 5 we've already met. Use feedback from members to measure success. You'll see the results of that on the next slide. Provide a sufficient budget to meet members' training and staffing expectations. Develop a say yes mentality. Add daily, weekly specials to supplement the core menu items. And add small plates, more variety to the menu, and healthy options. Provide better outdoor and casual dining venues we'll be looking at next year with the continuation of the facility master plan. And also completed, evaluate the reservation system and policies. And in process right now are set a member satisfaction goal and measure progress. Under the feedback rating in the next slide, you'll see we started off the September 23 with a 3.3, and we continually gone up with a little blip in March and April, where we're now at 4.36 for September 24. Liz and Alan have done a fantastic job improving these ratings, getting feedback from customers and finding out what they want, and also implementing those new procedures and processes in the food and beverage.
Chuck, thanks for that report. if I could put in a public service announcement. When you go eat in our restaurants and you have the opportunity to give us your feedback, it is welcome. As you can see that we are looking at and tracking these results to see if we're meeting your expectations. So you can help those of us up here by giving us your feedback through those surveys. We appreciate it. I'd like to introduce Walter and receive his general manager's update.
All right, thank you, Matt. To start out today, I would like to just address an issue that we have with one of our staff members. Over the past 2 years, I've tried to build a strong staff. We bond as a team and we help each other. Last Thursday, we had our marketing director, her house burned down. So as a staff, we're gathering together to try to support her and to help her recover from this. She went to pick her kids up from school, I believe, and on her way back, when she got back home, her house was up in flames. She was able to rescue a couple cats, her pets. But other than that, I think it was pretty much a loss of everything else. Luckily, she has family in the area, so she's got somewhere immediately to go and someone to help her out. But what we did as a staff is we developed a GoFundMe page. So that I'm going to provide to the community. I'll probably place it on the website under updated information. Is that what it's called? Important updates. So under important updates, I will hang a link that will take you to her her page to, if you want to donate some money. And right now, I think that's the best thing we can do for her, because right now she still has to figure out what she's going to do, find a new place to live and stuff like that. Now, later on down the road, once she finds and starts getting established, then we may also have a list of items that you could donate to help her recover, you know, whether it's furniture or clothes or whatever it might be. But right now, just to start the effort, we're going to have a GoFundMe page to help her out. So, you know, sad to hear that, and as a staff and hopefully as residents, we can help her recover and get back on her feet, and she'll continue to do great marketing things for us. In fact, today I think she said she's going to work remote, and I said, okay, if you have time, but, you know, we really want you to focus on recovering. So you'll see that here on the webpage. Okay, now to
Walter,
yes, Matt.
if I could have a moment. Michelle does a tremendous amount of work here, but you all know that we are going into what I call my favorite part of the year. This Thanksgiving through New Year's is a time where we tend to be generous with one another. We tend to be thoughtful about one another. Can you imagine having 2 children and everything that they own is gone? And so I know this community to be a very generous community, and this is a great time for us to step up and provide some assistance for this family that's desperately in need, and I know we can count on you.
Thank you, Matt. All right, just a quick update on some items that we as a staff have been working on. Of course, we've been working hard on building the 2025 budget, and we published the second draft last night, I believe. That's been put out on the website. So and that should be pretty close to the final budget. We're not planning on making too many changes from that. Common areas, the common area folks have been working hard. They've finished up the top third of the walking path. So if you walk, the top third of the walking path has got some new DG on it, some stabilized DG, so that's looking nice. They're making good progress with level 4. They should be done with level 4. That's the goal, to be done with all level 4 by the end of the year. Now, I've got to let you know, if you had your level 4 serviced in January, we considered that already, they visited already this year. You know, it's a 1-year rotation, so I know that some of you may say, well, my weeds are high again, but they have accomplished the one pass through the community, and they will by the end of the year. Another thing that's going on is the Mountain View pool is going to be open up. You're going to see some slides from, I believe, Bill will be presenting some slides on the Mountain View pool, but in addition to the Mountain View pool from maintenance, the common area folks also teamed up with them, and it was a team effort to make that place look great. So I'll let Bill give you more details on that when he gets up here. If you're swimming, again, with the Mountain View pool opening up, aqua classes are going to move back down to the Mountain View pool, so be aware of that. And check in with the fitness center if you're not sure where your classes are going to be held after the 1st of November. Food and Beverage wants you to know that Thanksgiving reservations at Mountain View and also at the Preserve are filling up quickly. So if you plan to take advantage of our food and beverage Thanksgiving offerings, make your reservations quickly. Again, if you're got different groups or that you're going to have parties with this season, make sure you get those scheduled pretty quickly so that they said that those room areas are starting to fill up fast also. Just a quick comment on golf. Of course, Preserve is back open, so we got both of the golf courses back open, and so plenty of places to go golfing now, so come on out. Lifestyle. They wanted me to mention that don't forget that the shows, they have a special going on right now where you can get 5 shows for the price of 4. So they're kind of packaging the shows this year for a discount for you. So if you like going to the shows, take advantage of that discount. 5 shows for the price of 4. And we mentioned marketing. Oh, one good thing, I was walking around the other day, and this is something new. They have these classes, and they had a class where they were building bouquets or flower arrangements. And so I know they had advertised that, and I had walked through, and I was like, man, what is that good smell? So I walked into the ballroom, and they were all putting flowers together, and the flowers were fresh, and it smelled good. But I don't know, it just excited me to see that some of the stuff that Liz is offering you, some of these classes and some of these new things that she's offering are just things that look like a lot of fun. You know, if I wasn't the general manager, maybe I would have sat down and made myself a flower arrangement. I don't know, but yeah, just be aware. I mean, Liz and Alan, they do some great things. So watch out for those things. And I'll kind of end it there because Bill's going to come up here and give you a little bit more about the maintenance stuff. So.
At the end, sir.
Thank you, Walter. Bill McGinn, Director of Operations and Facilities Maintenance, miracle worker and all-around good guy. Thank you. We're having a productive month this month. As most of you probably know, the pool's been shut down for 6 weeks, but every morning, as I say, I start my day with these 3 strategic goal objectives. Oh, thanks for changing the slide there, Joey. Financial stewardship, effective communication, and exceptional membership experience. I try to instill it in my team, and we've been working very, very hard, very diligently to provide that, especially with this pool project that we got going on. So we're expected to open November 1st. That's this Friday. I am proud to say that we're ready to open. We shouldn't have any delays. We've got all the contractors done. It was a huge joint effort. You're going to see a new solar project for the water. You're going to see, well, you won't see the electrical panel that we replaced, but desperately needed to be done. The deck resurfacing, which was the main reason for us closing, that is completed. We did a new shower wall, which was causing a lot of issues that I think was well worth the money and well worth getting it taken care of. And just a bunch of landscape and working with contractors, working with Cam and my team. And I'm hoping that you guys find this place spectacular when we open it. And going along with it, we've done a few upgrades to help us save a few dollars, which I know most of you will be happy to hear. We've decided to start doing bulk order, which is what you see on the bottom left corner picture. That's a new storage area for our chemicals to include chlorine and muriatic acid. So I hope that you guys see those projects when you get to the pool. I hope that you find that we were able to give you a resort-style pool with a kiddie pool budget. And I think it looks fantastic. Most of the people that have walked through it, well, all of them have given us nothing but compliments about the place. We're excited for you guys to get in there and see it. So please enjoy it when you do get in there. Next slide, please. Oh, back slide. As you can see, there's a lot of photos. There's a lot of work going on. On the top right corner, you can see we work all hours of the morning trying to get things completed. And yes, that is me holding a shovel. I don't just tell my guys what to do. A lot of times I'm out there trying to help them, but most of the time, as you know, a director just doesn't have the time to get out there and do what I really want to do, which is put hammer to nail. But with contractors and the bottom right photo shows almost the completion of the pool. I didn't want to put it out there, but in the coming, probably next Monday, I'm going to put out a video of the before and after. Joey was gracious enough to go out and do a flyover with the drone before we started, and then I will have him do another one today or tomorrow with the completed project. So that way you can see a lot of the landscape that has improved, a lot of the deck surface that has improved, and hopefully everything that is done, you guys are really, really happy to enjoy over the next few years. Next slide, please. So we've got a few more projects that we do. I mean, it's not just about the Mountain View Pool. This past month, we've set up to start building our basketball courts. The guys worked diligently to put in all of the, dig the holes, pour the concrete, mount the bases, so they're ready to start putting up our basketball hoops. So the thousands of you that play basketball around here will be able to enjoy it a bit. Cornhole, where are my cornhole people? The court looks fantastic, Bob. Thanks. It was a great joint effort getting everything going. I know it was a headache, but if you guys get a chance, walk down there, take a look at that cornhole. Be there Friday for the grand opening. I heard there's going to be punch and pie, so everybody enjoy the show. It's going to be a lot of beanbags tossed, I'm pretty sure, that day. First beanbag to the court, Bob. We're good? All right. I took a few pictures of the smaller projects that we got going on. We had a leak over at the spa here at Desert View. The crew got on it real quick, got it fixed, got it taken care of. These are things that you guys don't really see a lot of, and I'm thankful for that. So big shout out to my maintenance ninjas that get out there without you guys even knowing it. So if you see a lot of things one day and they're gone the next, that means we're doing our job, and I'm pretty happy with those guys. So a little look to the future. Next slide, please, Joey. I mentioned this last month on some of the things that we were going to do. So I put in here a few of the things that we have completed. Of course, the glass bead filter, the filter upgrade has happened to all the pools, and we are already noticing a lot more debris getting absorbed with these glass beads, so we're back flushing a little bit more, which is a good thing. It really is. The bulk order chlorine should be done tomorrow, so hopefully I can start taking some numbers, and hopefully next month I've got some positive feedback, some ROI, some return on investment for you guys with that one. One of the next things that I'm really looking at doing is our Clear Comfort system. And I have sent up the reserve request. I have done everything I can. What this system does is basically removes even more of the oils and sediments that we have in our pools from your skin, from the lotions and things like that. It breaks it down a little bit better than just using the chlorine and muriatic acid alone. So hopefully we can get that approved here and get going on that. Along with that system, we're going to do an upgrade to our CAT system, which is basically a metering system, which will hopefully reduce the amount of chemicals that we use in our pools. And that will hopefully give us an end result with our finances of about roughly somewhere between 35 and 45% of savings with our chemicals and a lot of the maintenance that'll be taken care of. Finally, lastly, next slide. we've got 4 more AC units to go for this year. And they are probably going to start next week, I hope, Ray. And we're really looking forward to getting these last 4 done, because that means next year we've got about roughly 3 more to do, and then the whole cycle starts all over again. But these will be taken care of over at one at this building right above us, 2 at the, or 1 at the Arts and Crafts, and 1 at the ballroom over at Mountain View. So, or 2 at the ballroom and 1 at the, it doesn't matter, they're getting done. We're really trying to work really good, but I want to communicate to you folks that we will announce the parking spots. Please note that word, spots. We are not closing the parking lots for the crane to be able to load these up, and I will get that information out to you as soon as I get it, as soon as I find out when they're starting. So with that, that is my finality, and I thank everybody.
Don't go anywhere. I made this observation to Walter and Ray this morning at the chairman's meeting, and I want to do it here personally with Bill. A lot of times, it's hard to find somebody doing it right. And one of the things that I always looked for in my previous life was discretionary effort. This man had the task of resurfacing the pool deck at the Mountain View Pool. For those of our members who frequent the Mountain View Pool, and Campbell's the one that's counseled me the most over the years, it's an entirely different environment because we had interdepartmental cooperation. Bill and his team and Michael and his team, the common area maintenance team, working together have provided us a much better Mountain View Pool experience than we've enjoyed in the 10 years that I've been here. So I wanted to publicly acknowledge that we are paying attention. And I want you, our residents, to know that his initiative has brought us, now we got to spend some money, right, Larry? We got to spend some money to save money. And so he's able, in the last few weeks, to convince the board, the finance committee, and Walter and Ray that the right thing for us to do was to spend more money in 2025 so we could save all this money that Bill's talking about. Discretionary effort. And so this is my poster child today for winning leadership and what happens when we all work together. And I certainly appreciate the fact that you know what our strategic goals are and you're working to achieve them every day. Thanks for being a role model.
My pleasure. Thank you, folks.
I'm sorry? That's in lieu of money. In lieu of money, yeah. Okay, thank you very much. I would like to invite our Director of Finance, Terry Dempsey, to the podium, please. He's going to provide us with our September financial update.
Okay, Bill's always a tough act to follow, but I'll tell you how much all this is going to cost you. All right, so first slide is our cash. This is our cash from September. Operating cash at September was $4.8 million. Reserve cash was $6.4 million. CIF cash is $1.6 million, and our combined is $12,950,000. And this is a change from August of $565,000. Okay, next slide. This slide is our year-end projections. We did a reforecast in July of 2024. That is the column that's in yellow. My projections for year-end are in green. As noted, the projection is September year-to-date plus October, November, and December budget all added together. The projected revenue for dues is $13,000 better than reforecast. And other revenue, which includes the transfer fees, penalties and interest for late payments, ALC fees, communications income from Verizon, some miscellaneous income and interest income. These were $54,740 better than the reforecast, most of it coming from the penalties and late dues payments. Amenity revenue is $8,139 better than the reforecast, and This means all revenue is $76,355, better than what we had reforecasted back in July. So our projection is to be $76,000 better in revenue. Okay, next slide. This next slide shows what our expenses were. By controlling expenses, looking for efficiencies, the amenity and operating expenses are projected to be $651,000 better than what we had reforecasted at the middle of July. Okay, so $651,000 to the good. As a result, income from before the depreciation is projected to be a positive $92,000, and this is $727,000 better than we had reforecasted. Okay. So Walter wanted to add something here.
All right. I just wanted to jump in here because Matt, when we first showed this to Matt, I know he had a heart attack, and so Matt and I sat down and I promised we would work on this. So if you can go back to the well, just stay here for a second. So the reason Matt was very concerned was, and I was concerned too, because you have this negative $635,000. So that definitely was concerning. So as a staff, we work on this every year. So let me kind of walk you through a little bit on how we ended up going from this 635 over to a positive 92. So can you go back to the previous slide? So this kind of covers the revenue. And so this is what we were projecting right after June, July. So June, after we got June numbers, this is what we were projecting. But over here, you can kind of see the difference on the progress we're making. So one of the things that was a big mover here was the penalties on dues and special assessment. So unfortunately, not everybody pays their dues and special assessments on time, but you can see it adds up pretty quick on these penalties and stuff. So we made some ground there. A lot of this other stuff, when you're talking a $15 million budget, is kind of small stuff. But in the end, we've made some progress, $54,000 in revenue. And amenities revenue. So in the bottom, we picked up over the last quarter about $76,000 in terms of revenue. So go ahead and go to the next slide. Let's talk expenses. Now this is where the big movers are. One of the big things you notice, well, first let me talk about restaurants. In revenue and in expenses, the month of September was pretty hard on us. We were a lot slower than we projected we were going to be, so that's what kind of drove some of the decreases in revenue and also some of the increases in expenses for the restaurants. So we hope in the last quarters, the last 3 months of the year, that we're going to overcome this. The restaurants are looking strong again. I've been watching the weekly and daily reports, and so restaurant revenue is going up. So that I think we're going to recover there. Now, one of the big things we see here that really helped us out to gain was that $145,000 difference in the expense at the golf course. So they are watching their expenses. They're trying to cut down on their expenses. The next thing you see is in general admin. Here we had some, I believe HR had some miscalculations, some stuff that was actually passed through. The staff pays for things. We were counting it as expense, but really it was something the staff, it was more of a pass-through. So that's not the whole $140,000, but that's a big chunk of it. So we made some good gains in G&A just by correcting how HR was accounting for some costs. And then we've got facilities. Bill, the saint, the giver, is working hard to get us $65,000 there. So he's making progress on watching his spending. So, and then the big one here is $257,000. Now this came from the common area. Now in common area, we were getting behind in level 4. I asked Michael to surge. I asked him to hire a contractor to work on level 4. He hired the contractor when we built the first reforecast. We were planning to use the contractor all year, and he also overestimated how much the contractor was going to cost because it was time and material cost. So we found out that the contractor was making more progress with less manpower than we expected. And then in addition to that, once I saw that cost, We actually cut the contract off at the end of September, and then just went ahead and we're working on that with internal funds. So common area, we were able to shave off a lot there just by readjusting, bringing some work in-house, and also correcting the overestimate of how much that was going to cost. And everything else, again, in a $15 million budget, is a lot smaller. So in the end, that's how we end up going from the 635 over to the 92,000 to the positive. Now, I wanted to guarantee, well, yeah, I'll guarantee, Matt, at least up until November 22nd, that that we are going to be more stable. I mean, we've have some things that, yeah, really made it hard for you to track and for you to plan. But I feel that, you know, the big movers from here on out, the last quarter, are really going to be how the restaurants and the golf course perform. Other than that, I don't see a lot of movement with that bottom line.
So let the love in continue. Step up here in front of the podium, Terry. No, I want Terry to come with us. And so I've devoted about the last, I said 60 days this morning, but I think it's 90 days. My hair's rapidly receding, focused on budgets. This year's budget, next year's budget, a 5-year budget. And I will tell you, this is extraordinary stuff. I stood in front of this community 3 months ago, and I laid out the reforecast, and I delivered the bad news because I felt that was my obligation. To go from 635,000 underwater to 92,000 is an extraordinary achievement. And I didn't want to say it out loud, but these presentations make me have to acknowledge what has happened. We sat down, the three of us sat down a few months ago after they delivered the great news and said, holy cow, what are we going to do about this? And so we started to make plans. I pulled in one of my mates here who's the liaison to the common area maintenance team, and we started talking about common area maintenance. And then Walter went to work with his staff. And I wish I could tell you that his staff was very happy with the way that Walter has squeezed them on this year's budget and the way the board has squeezed them on the 2025 budget. This man's last day with us is 22 November. And I've never known anybody like Walter Yazzie. Dan Linegar and I sat down with him at the end of April and told him that we were going to move in a new direction. And we were going to bring in a chief operating officer. By contract, Walter could have left us 30 days later. 6 months later, he's still helping this community win every day. You saw Bill's report. You're seeing Terry's work here with the financial management. This goes across everything that we're doing to deliver on our mission statement for the members of this corporation. And Walter, I just got to stand up here one more time on behalf of this board and acknowledge what you've been doing to hold all of this together for us as we move into the future. And so I want to say thank you, and God bless you, sir, as you move into your future.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
And Terry, thanks for all the counsel. Thanks for all your mentoring to help us get through all of this.
All right, quite a love fest today. Okay. Let's see where we're at. Okay. Expenses, next slide, please. Okay, so this is our summary income statement. September we had a net income of $24,297 compared to September of 23, which had a subsidy of $121,000, which is better by 120%. Okay. So revenue was slightly down in September 2024. Yep, revenue was down slightly by 2.9% from September of 2023. Compared, September 2024 was down 2.9% from September of 2023. Sorry about that. All right, so combined net amenities in September 2024 were 20% better than they were in September of 23. And operating expenses, which includes general admin, facilities, common area, and patrol, were 20% better than what they were in September of 2023. Next. Okay, food and beverage. So combined food and beverage had a subsidy in September of $41,000, which is 56% better than what it was in September of 23. Revenue at Mountain View was 21% better than 23. Preserve revenue was down 11% from September of 2023. Combined restaurant revenue was 8.2% better than last year, and Mountain View expenses came in at 9% better than September of 23, and the preserve expenses were better by 16%. Combined expenses were 11.8% better than September of 23. Current projection for combined restaurants is a subsidy at year end of $526,000. That's what you see down in the bottom right there. Okay, next slide. This graph shows the combined F&B revenues continues to increase. Mountain View is projected revenue of $2.4 million for this year, and Preserve has a projected revenue of $1.3 million. Okay, and the next slide. Next slide shows our cost of goods sold. Restaurant cost of goods sold, or we call it COGS, is 37.9% for Mountain View Bar and Grill and 46.6% at Preserve. Okay, next slide. Golf. September combined golf had a subsidy of $147,000, which is a little worse, 3.9% worse than what it was last year. Combined golf revenue was 14% better than last year, with Mountain View being 62% better than September of 23, and Preserve is 7.4% worse than what it was last year. Combined golf expenses were 9.5% worse than September of 23, and sometimes these are just, if you're comparing month to month, sometimes there's timing issues in there, so it's not, year-to-date is probably a better way to look at that. Current projections for combined golf is a subsidy of $1.1 million, and $600,000 of that is attributable to the revenue that was lost by Mountain View not being open in a timely manner. Okay. And next. This chart just shows the dues allocation. So year to date through September, we had $2,625 per rooftop. And clockwise on the pie chart, restaurants used $97 of that. Reserves, $785. Patrol was $73. Common area maintenance, $310. Facilities is $418. G&A, this does include the front office staff, IT, marketing, accounting, HR, and such, is $614. Fitness was $15. Theater and lifestyles were $11, and golf was $302. And so that's what I have for you for September. Okay, thank you.
Hey, Mandy. Joey, back up to the F&B revenue line chart. That one right there. $3.2 million to $3.7 million. That's a $500,000 increase in revenue being generated in our food and beverage operation, and that's because you and our residents and the decisions you're making about eating, and I'm assuming that's why the satisfaction levels are up. You're finding the food quality to be better than you had last year, and you're finding the service to be better. And it's showing up in those revenue numbers, and we are gratefully appreciative of that. The one thing that I would tell you that Chuck Kill and I are frustrated about, go forward a slide. A few weeks ago, Chuck and I and Larry were on a call with Darren Shaw, the new chief operating officer, and we were talking about this problem. He's a subject matter expert. We're unhappy about COGS at the preserve. In spite of Terry's best efforts over the last year and a half that I'm aware of, we have not won that fight. And I'm going to quote Darren here. It looks like I have nowhere to go but up. And so I expect that one of the things that we're going to see, when the consultants came in and talked to us, one of the areas that we had to win in was COGS, cost of goods sold. And so you can see we're very stable at Mountain View. We can't say that at the preserve, and that's going to get a lot of attention in the coming year. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Now I get to introduce the chairman of our Rules and Regs Committee, Mr. Ray Adams, who has a presentation for us.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Okay, last month we had some proposed rule changes, and there are two areas that we're interested in. The first was traffic rules and elimination of safety corridors, higher fee structure for traffic violations. The second major area was fines for violations without specific sanctions in the rules. So, why do we want to do this? Staff was requesting clearer and more effective rules. We believe the rules should be designed to change potentially harmful behaviors. There are many offenses that don't have a specific fine or a penalty listed in the appendix to the rules. And sometimes we really be setting out warnings. Results. 47 residents responded. I don't know, that's probably what we could get if we got if we took account of everyone who was in the theater just at the incident. There were 57 separate comments. Let me just take a quick look at the recommended changes. The speeding is going to be increased from $50 to $100 as proposed. 16 miles an hour or more over the limit is going to be increased to $200. A failure to observe a stop sign is going to be $200, big jump, and eliminate the safety corridors. So what did our 47 people have to say about this? 16 said they approved of the traffic fines. 12 said they disapproved. 5 said that rules should be applied to all vehicles, and we believe that strongly. So does the state of Arizona. 4 were against eliminating the safety corridors. 3 disapproved of the stop sign fine. I was a little surprised at that because I thought we'd get a bigger reaction. And 2 said that golf carts need more attention, and probably a truer thing was never said. There were some other comments, and this is just a little representative group. Someone wanted to know if we were padding the income stream. As I mentioned last time, in this year, we're talking about having issued fines to the extent of about $6,000. Now, we're a $16 to $18 million corporation. That's probably not a big impact. Patrol should use some discretion. Well, they already do. You know, the patrol people are confronted every day with a decision about what to do about an infraction that they see. And under the circumstances, take them all into consideration and decide what to do. I think they're doing a great job in that respect. Some folks we needed a noise rule for diesels and ATVs. And as it turns out, the state of Arizona already has something like that in place. It's in ARS 28985, which limits that sort of thing to about 97 dB, which is loud, but it's not terribly loud. Do the rules apply to outside traffic? Absolutely. You know, when a patrol sees an infraction, assuming it's a vehicle, a car, they don't know who's in it. They don't know where they live, and are not particularly interested. The only thing we do know is that they did something wrong. We often stop people who are not residents, who are either passing through or are contractors, and they're cited just as if they were a member. Do we always collect on those? No. Do we sometimes collect? Absolutely. The other thing is that where we're dealing with contractors, we have the opportunity to contact the company that they represent, make sure they understand how their employees are behaving on our site, and make sure they get a caution that that's not appropriate behavior. So we use that to our best advantage. Someone decided that repeat offenses should be limited to a year. Yeah, you know, probably. In general, we agree. But it depends on the violation. You know, if you're trimming in the level 5 area, for example, and you do that on January the 1st, and you get a general warning that says, please don't do that anymore. And then you wait for the next year until January the 2nd and go out and trim, well, you're just going to get another warning. That doesn't make much sense. So we're going to try to use the common sense as a guideline to make sure that folks aren't excessively penalized, but we take cognizance of the fact that they may have repeated a problem. Okay, let's go to proposed changes on the fines and sanctions. That's a pretty busy chart. First offense, a notice of violation. It's warning. It may include a required remedy and a reasonable time limit to resolve the issue. Depends on the offense, depends on what the problem is. If it's not resolved, the issue isn't resolved within a reasonable specified period, it may be considered a repeat offense. Repeat offenses, a notice of violation to include a fine, a potential for suspension of membership privileges. The notice of violation will specify any required remedy and reasonable time limits to resolve the issue. If you don't get it done then, we'll try to find anything else that we can use to convince you that you should change your behavior. Our objective, of course, is just to get the problem fixed. A couple of people commented on that. One wanted to define reasonable time limits. If we could define reasonable time limits, they'd be specific. They wouldn't be just reasonable time limits. It depends on what the behavior is. If we see someone with a 12-year-old granddaughter driving a golf cart, that can be resolved pretty quickly. You know, all we have to do is say, please don't do that. Let's get that girl out from behind the wheel, all right? If we see someone who's made some, what we feel to be major modifications in a common area, that's going to take some time to resolve. It's going to be an issue where reasonable time limits will stretch. So we need some latitude, and the folks who enforce these rules require some latitude to make this happen. What does removing member status mean? What they're really talking about is suspension of your privileges to use the facilities here that we have in Saddlebrook for a period of time. And typically that's anywhere from 30 to 60 days. Doesn't happen very often. And the other comment, suspension of membership, is essentially the same answer. Didn't get much of a response. I wanted to make an observation. 1.5% of our residents responded to this. 98.5% missed an opportunity. You know, we're trying hard, I think, both as a committee structure and as a board, to try to engage the population in the governance of their community. And I'm probably preaching to the choir here. You good folks are the ones who come and listen. But we really need the help of folks to pay some attention to their community, pay some attention to what's going on, and try to give us a hand. And I have a caution for you. Vehicles come to a stop when their wheels quit moving. It's that simple. With respect, let's try to remember that at stop signs, all right? Okay, with all of that having been said, taking full cognizance of all of the comments that were made and trying to interpolate, make sure that we've got it right, we're going to request a motion. The Rules and Regulations Committee will request a motion to approve the proposed rules as submitted.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you for your presentation. We will now take it under consideration. Do I have a motion to adopt these rules?
I'll make that motion to adopt these rules as stated. Is this working? Hello.
There you go.
Okay, I just do it again. I'll make that motion to adopt the rules as proposed by Ray.
And do I have a second? I have a second. So I have received a motion to approve the changes to our rules and regulations as submitted by the Rules and Regs Committee last month. The community had the opportunity to comment and provide their input. It's been weighed and considered. Is there any more discussion at the board level?
Yeah, the only thing, Ray, is in the proposed changes for Article 12, you're going to have to change the wording from general manager to chief operating officer. And we're going to have to do that.
Yeah, we heard that comment a lot. My take on that is this. As soon as our COO is in place, we will ask for a global change that identifies all general manager comments and change it to OCC.
Okay.
That's a lot easier than doing it kind of piecemeal from my perspective anyway.
Thank you, and we'll do the same thing with ALC. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion at the board level? Any discussion with our members?
First, thank you, Ray, and thank you, Board. One thing that wasn't addressed, and this is the timing of putting this into effect if it's approved, and I would recommend for our purposes, patrol's purposes, 1st of 2025. It'll give us some time to change our forms and remove stuff that's obsolete, and also give the public a couple of months to adjust to the change.
Hold 1 second, sir. Is that acceptable to you?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Good catch.
Do I need to change my motion to make this effective the 1st of 2025?
And I have a second? Same second. Same second, thank you very much. Yeah, I think that makes it complete. Any other member discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous, Charlie. Ray, thank you and your committee for your work. Man, we appreciate you. I'd like to invite Greg Ballard, representing our chairman of our election committee, to give us an update on the Board of Directors election that is ongoing.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Greg Ballard. I'm here representing Mike Brenny, who is unable to attend today. Just a quick update on the ongoing election. Next slide, please. These are the 4 candidates currently. Mark Eckert, who of course is currently on the board, Janine Grippo, Sherry Groupie, and Brad Neckham. Those are the candidates that have put themselves forward to help the board in the next year. We did a number of things, next slide please, to create campaign awareness. A number of requests were made to encourage residents to run for the board, and we ended up with 4 candidates for the 3 open positions. Once the slate was set, we set out numerous emails, et cetera, to promote the forums and photos and resumes of the 4 candidates. We conducted one general forum here, and we had, I think about 100 residents or so at that forum. We had 3 separate unit forums, and we didn't have a great turnout for those, but we did have some turnout. We had 25 email questions because we gave an opportunity for residents to send questions via email if they couldn't attend the forums. And those were all answered in one form or another, either in live at the forums or via email to the folks who asked the questions. There was a how-to presentation made at each of the forums in regard to voting electronically. I know that still baffled some folks, and we'll continue to work on that. So our preference really is that we get voting through Vote HOA now done electronically, because it makes the results basically, once the voting period is over, the results are available right then, and we don't need to spend time voting or counting votes by hand at the end of the election period. It just makes it better for everyone involved if we can do that. Of course, we understand there are some folks who are unable to do that, and we'll look at alternatives, measures that we can take to improve that voting electronically. We'll provide regular updates throughout the voting period. Currently, the latest count is we've received 579 votes, which represents 18.11% of the accounts that are available to vote. Next slide, please. Voting period, as you can see, is 28th through November 18th at noon, and the results will be either announced the afternoon of the 18th or on the 19th, depending on the votes that need to be hand counted. Next slide, please. Voting regulations, you can all read this. I think everybody knows that you can vote if you're not in default on payment or not have an active code violation, et cetera. In the CC&Rs, next slide, please. In the event more than one vote is cast, and this is particularly important because some people made a mistake where 2 folks in the same household voted, and those cancel each other out. So you can't, that's not something you can do. You want to make sure you're not doing that. You can vote electronically or by paper ballot. As I said, we're pushing hard to get the electronic voting done. That is not something that we administer. That's administered by an outside contractor. They use, a lot of HOAs use it and are very happy with it. We really don't get information about who. It's how many votes did we get? And each candidate or measure, whatever it happens to be. And that's really what we want. We want to know how many votes we get and who they're for or what they're for. So we, again, will try to get more people to vote electronically. Our goal is to achieve at least a 60% voting rate with up-to-date past board elections, you can see we haven't achieved that. 2021, we did the best that we have done in board elections, and we're working on getting to this 60% rate. Hopefully, we will do so. Any questions from anyone?
Do you know how many residents viewed the Monday event?
The recent Monday message?
No, the Monday event when we had all the candidates up here last Monday? Do we
I
know how
bel-
many viewed that from home? I know there wasn't many people that actually attended.
I think we had about 3,000 views or clicks, but not everybody viewed it. So the number that viewed it was pretty small, 300 and something, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Any
Great.
other questions?
Thank you for the update, sir. We appreciate it. Thanks for all the work that the election committee has done to get us to this point. I made this observation at the committee chair meeting this morning. I've been here 10 years. This is the best effort we've seen in trying to reach out to the community, engage the community, and make as much availability of candidates as possible. So well done.
Thank you.
Next, I'll introduce Campbell Cheney. He's our Finance Committee Chair. He's going to discuss the Finance Committee recommendation about an audit firm. Our contract, we had a 3-year contract with our current audit firm, and the Finance Committee took on the challenge of researching how we go forward.
Thanks, Matt. With the conclusion this year, 2023, our 3-year contract with our current audit firm, Beach Fleischman, expires. So per our procurement policy, we need to have 3 new bids to contract for the next 3 years. So in July, the board gave the Finance Committee a task to find a 3rd candidate. They had already identified 2 candidates, Beach Fleischman and Keegan Linscott. So in earnest, the audit subcommittee of the Finance Committee was given this task to search for the 3rd candidate. Currently, we found about 7 additional firms that were possibilities. We got through to only 5. 2 didn't respond to emails or phone calls at all. Of the 5, 2 were receptive to receiving an RFP, request for proposal. So that would give us 4 total RFPs to send out, which we did in late August. And so those 4, let me back up a second. What we're going to be doing is a contract for financial statement audits for the years 2024 to 2026, year ending 2024 to 2026, retirement plan audits, and state and federal tax support for those same years, 2024 to 2026. So the 4 firms that received RFPs in late August were Beach Fleischman, our current audit firm, Clifton, Larson, and Allen, which is a regional firm, commonly known as CLA, so for the rest of the presentation, I'm going to call it CLA. A 3rd firm was Rogoff, Erickson, Diamond, and Walker out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, or REDW, a smaller regional firm. And then a local firm, Keegan, Linscott, and Associates, which was one of the 2 that the board already identified. Proposals were due October 7th, and we received, next slide, Joy, 3 proposals, 1 from Beach Fleischman, 1 from CLA, and 1 from REDW. So, who are these firms? Let's take a look at them. Beach Fleischman was founded in 1990. It has 23 principals, partners if you will, and 220 employees. They have 310 nonprofit clients. They have 10 HOA clients, of which we're 1. And they have 3 locations, Tucson, Phoenix, and Nogales. CLA is a bit bigger. Founded in 2012, but its origins date back to 1953. It has 1,200 principals, 9,000 employees, 9,000 nonprofit clients, 22 HOA clients in the western U.S. It has HOA clients everywhere, but just in the western U.S., 22. 15 of those are in Arizona, and there's over 130 locations. Next slide. REDW out of Albuquerque was also founded in 1953. It has 53 principals, 330 employees, 100 nonprofit clients, but really the nonprofits that they deal with are tribal nations, schools, churches, medical offices, hospitals, local governments, those type of things. They didn't really disclose any HOA clients, but after talking with them online, on the phone, they do have a few, but it's not really their core competency. And they have 4 locations: Albuquerque, Phoenix, Salem, Oregon, and Oklahoma City. Next slide. So here are the financial bids. Here's a side-by-side of all 3 firms. And actually, Walter, can I have your pointer? So I want to point out a couple of things. Here are the financial statement audits for 2024, year ending 2024. CLA has 31,000, Beach Fleischman 33,500, about the same, a little cheaper. Financial plan audit 15 to 15, and nothing from REDW. And plus their financial statement audit was significantly higher. Form 1120 is a tax form. So 1,800 from CLA, 6,000 from Beach Fleischman. Now Beach and TLA has something that's somewhat unique to them. They have this tech support and client. What that means is they have continuous investments in upgrading technology and innovation and cybersecurity to provide state-of-the-art technology in real time. Beach doesn't have anything like that, and neither does REDW. So here we down at the bottom, a little over 50,000 for 2024, all included for CLA, and about 54.5 for Beach Fleischman. Next slide. So it was an easy call to take out REDW. They really don't have many HOA clients. They're more expensive just on the basic financial statement audit, and they didn't even give a bid for the other things that we needed. So we took them out of the equation. Next slide, Joey. So here's a side-by-side, both together. Same slide as before, but both together. Just a little bit easier comparison of the two. CLA and the progression into 2025 and 2026, you can see it gets a little bit wider in the variance. Next slide. How about some qualitative factors besides just financials or bids and costs? For the other two, again, I took out REDW, so now it's just a side-by-side of CLA and Beach Fleischman. For technology, they both use web-based online portals. What does that mean? That means a lot of the work is going to be done off-site with us, HOAs, putting in to a web portal our financials and everything that they need, so they don't have to come down here and be on site for very long. Both firms use that. Something I call uniqueness. As I said, CLA uses a lot of data analytics, artificial intelligence they're investing in. What Beach Fleischman uses is what they call a risk-based approach, which means since they've been our auditor for the last 3 years, they know our weak spots, they know our strengths. So they're going to focus on the areas where we can improve. That's what the risk that they call. Timeline of deliverables, about the same. One thing to keep in mind is for CLA, as a new client, they would require a lot of staff time as they review the work papers. So a lot of pre-work would have to be done in December 2024. And also in May, they both would finish their final audits. Now looking at references, each gave references. We checked with the references for CLA. Quite frankly, their responses were positively glowing from the HOAs that we called, specifically Sun City Communities up in Phoenix. They had nothing but positive, glowing comments for CLA. They're responsive in hours, not days. They're good technologists. They're good at efficiencies. We know Beach Fleischman because they've been our auditor for 3 years, so that's a good working relationship. So, at the end, what tipped the scales? CLA says everything we need, so does Beach Fleischman. It seemed like the committee was a little bit kind of on the fence on which way to go. In the end, the committee voted unanimously to recommend that the board approve Beach Fleischman as its audit firm for the next 3 years as tasked for the following. The existing relationship, that carried a lot of weight. The staff likes them, they have a good working relationship with Beach. Costs, CLA was cheaper, no doubt, but not a materially cheaper when you've got an $18 million community. Both use web-based portals for efficiency, off-site audits, and both are familiar with our Northstar system, something that is very important to us since we had to switch back to Northstar late last year. And one other thing is the onboarding of a new firm does, as I said, divert management time to bring the firm up to speed. That is it. So the board recommends that we stay with Beach. Now, I understand there's a couple of issues with a 3-year contract, which I'm sure Matt will go into right now.
Campbell, I want to say thanks to you and the Finance Committee for your work. Like a great many things on my to-do list right now, the truth is moving on us because of the change in governance. And this past week, Larry and I were on the phone with Darren Shaw. I meet with him every week, and I invited Larry in so we could discuss this audit. And so in discussing this decision, Darren conveyed to Larry and I that it would be his desire that we only pursue a 1-year contract to allow him to come in here and make his evaluation of our situation and make a decision going forward. Being this is the man we hired to run this place, I think it's prudent that we may take his advice and suggestion and only look at a 1-year option. So we did 2 things. I asked Walter to reach out to Beach Fleischman to see if they would extend for a year, given the fact that we were bringing in a chief operating officer, which was going to be impactful in how we manage our community. And Larry took on the responsibility to reach out to CLA. Both firms are willing to give us a 1-year contract. So the first thing I need to get a vote on from the board is, are you willing to accede to Darren's request that we only extend an audit contract for 1 year? And if so, I need a motion to consider that.
I move that we only do the audit contract for 1 year per the request of our COO.
And I need a second. A second. We have a second. You can pick either Denise or Larry. Any discussion about the 1-year decision?
Are the prices that we saw up here for the first year the price that we're talking about for year 1?
Yeah, I can't answer that. The 2 people that talked to need to answer.
From Beach Fleischman, yes, the numbers you saw up on the screen are the ones they offer for the 1-year contract.
And that's the $54,500.
Correct.
For CLA, when I spoke to the principal that would be the head of this audit, I had a nice long conversation with him. Her comment was they would want a 1-year contract so that they could show that they can earn our business in the future. I was very impressed by her, and yes, they would not change their fees, except they were not given the information they needed to do the bid for the 401k audit, so she said they would adjust that probably down significantly once they had the information available. So as far as the audit fee goes, yes, that and the tax return, that stays.
Yeah, so let's keep all discussion about the 2 firms for the next vote. This discussion is simply about we're going to approve a one-year extension or a one-year contract for an audit for 2025, so Darren can come in and lead the process for a long-term contract. That's all this discussion is about.
I agree with doing that. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't talking, because some firms, when they come in the first year, pad their fees a little bit because they have a lot more work to do in year one. So as long as the fees stay the same, I'm fine with it.
Good. Any other discussion at the board level? Any discussion from our members? Seeing none, all in favor of offering one of those two firms a one-year audit contract for 2025, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous, Charlie. Thank you.
You done?
I'm done, Campbell.
Okay.
If I need you,
I'll be right down.
I'll just chase you to the mic. So the next piece of this is, do we stay with Beach Fleischman, who's been with us for 3 years, and or do we go with a new firm that does not know us, that will have to get to know us for this one-year period? So that's the next discussion we have to have is, are we going to extend this one-year contract to Beach, or are we going to extend this contract to CLA? So I wanted to allow that discussion to go on, and then we can take a vote.
All right. One other item that Darren mentioned when we talked to him on Friday was that when you're talking these audits, now he's going to be new on board. He also suggested that sometimes it's good to get new eyes on our books. So I took that as a recommendation that we look elsewhere other than Beach. The other thing I wanted to talk about was their bid, CLA's bid over 3 years was $16,000 less. Now, I was a little taken back by the Finance Committee's attitude in this direction because to me, $16,000 is a lot of money. And maybe they don't think that. But, you know, if we've got item after item after item where you don't take that into consideration, all of a sudden our budget goes up and up and up. So as the assistant treasurer and as a person who used to do audits, to me, $16,000 is a lot of money. The other thing was that CLA is providing a broader scope of work where they will actually come in and reconcile all of our intercompany accounts. Beach does not do that. Other items, some of us on the board were not real happy with Beach this year because we had to pressure them to get the audit out in a timely manner. Some other items I noticed were there was the way the presentation was created some questions from our residents, and some of the stuff was not real clear to follow. And they didn't produce a tax return for about 3 months later after we had to pressure them so we could get this out for bids. So, given all of that, CLA has a Tucson office where they will staff this. Their principal, who is their professional in nonprofits, is in Phoenix, and she will be spending time down here. Like I said, I had a long conversation with her. I was really impressed. They have some glowing recommendations. And from my point of view, given all of that, I would recommend switching over to CLA for next year's audit.
Yeah, I guess the things that, for me, one of the things I wanted to ask, certainly our new COO's recommendation to me is pretty important. He certainly indicated, from what I understand, that in his view, getting new companies every few years is really a healthy thing to do, to have new people looking at the books. I trust his judgment on that. Obviously, one of the concerns is the amount of work that's going to be required by our staff, which probably will be more using a new company than an existing company. So that's on the other side of the ledger. The other thing I guess I wanted to ask that I'd heard when we did our finance committee meeting is There was the question about the fact that, we've had a bunch of problems with TDI, having to change our software over to the new software. It made a nightmare for us. The one question that I remember being asked was, our present company knows about all those nightmares, and they've got that all included as far as in their cost. The question was asked, well, what happens if the CGI doesn't know, they don't know anything about that? So is it possible that after they get into the books, they're going to say, well, wait a minute, guys, we didn't really know that you had this big software problem. It's going to take a lot more work for us to go and do this work. It's going to be another $10,000 for us to be able to do this work for 2000 for next year, because we didn't know that you guys had this gigantic, and it was an enormous amount of work that TDI caused us, which the staff had to go through, which our auditing firm had to go through. So that's, to me, is the one unknown that I'm uncomfortable with, is that if we base the decision on cost, when we really don't know for sure what the final CLA cost might be, to me, that's a downside. But, I don't know that it's a slam dunk either way in my mind. I can see a pro and con to both sides of the ledger, so.
I'd like to say that we have a wonderful finance committee, and I don't know who was on the audit team, don't care, but if their recommendation is to go with Beach Fleshman, I like the idea of new blood, and Larry, you and I talked about that on the phone. But if the finance committee has said we should go with Beach Fleshman, especially, number one, existing relationship that our management, our finance people work well with them, and Darren Shaw and the rest of us are going to have a lot on our plate come to December. So I think this would be one less jiggle of the jello to stay with Beach Fleshman.
I will say this, as an auditor for decades, the transition isn't that difficult. They come in, they get some stuff, they review it, they review some past year's stuff, they do their normal stuff for the current year, which includes all the analysis of our internal controls and things like that. Darren is new here, so him reacting or interacting with a new audit firm will not be a challenge for him. It might be a little extra work from our staff. And as far as fees go, this will be a contract. There won't be a change in fees, Mark. So that's why I made the recommendation, and because I know the business.
Weren't we, for 2024, weren't we with North Star the entire year?
Sorry, what was the question?
Weren't we with North Star for the entire year of 2024?
Yes.
So there's no split between TDI and North Star for the 2024 audit, like there was the prior year. So it's not going to be as complicated as it was the prior year.
Hold 1 second. I'm going to get the board in here, or the staff in here, Walter and Terry. I want their expert advice as well. They're the people involved in this. Look, Larry, I get your position. You want change, and you're advocating for CLA. I'm of the opinion that we want to make a change. Making a change next year probably makes more sense to me than making change now with everything else that we're going to be doing. And so for this 1 year, and I'm going to let Walter and Terry chime in here because I think it's important that we hear theirs. And I apologize to the Finance Committee because you didn't have any of this intel. It's only a few days old. But it seems to me in this year of change, we as a board should try to stabilize and cause as little change as possible where we can. And so I'm not disagreeing that maybe we need to move on to another firm. In full disclosure, Darren thinks that a community like ours should be changing audit firms every 3 to 5 years. And so change is not something that we should be afraid of. In this case, it seems to me that all the pluses aside, on the other side of the ledger, having the known entity that knows us, made their mistakes, and now take us forward for another year makes sense to me. And so, Walter, if you would, give us your thoughts on all of this.
All right, thank you, Matt. From what I've seen in the past and the experience I have watching us change from North Star to TEI back to North Star, we have disrupted Terry and the whole financial process for 3 years. They have not had any stability. Even this year, they still are trying to recover from our adventure to TEI. So from my point of view and speaking for the staff, I would ask for at least another year staying with Beach Fleshman, staying with North Star to stabilize, let them have a year of real stable operations. And, you know, that'll also give Darren a year to see how everything's operating without it changing while he's watching what's going on. So my plea to you is stay with Beach Fleshman to give the finance folks a year of stability. And then I'll let Terry kind of fill in the details on how much work or that'll make his staff go through.
So, I too have been working with auditors for 40 years. To answer Chuck's question, there is information that they have to go back to 2023 because when you get a new audit in, they have to come in, a new audit firm in, they have to come in and they have to look at the current books, and they also have to attest to the previous year's books. That's what they do. So that does bring up 2023, which is a split year between TEI and North Star. My other point is that CLA is going to come in and they're going to tell you that the audits only cost $31,000, but in addition, in that contract, it's going to say that anything that is unforeseen and we don't know about right now is going to be an upcharge. That is already baked into what Beach Fleshman currently has. They know us. They know the things that we have to fight and how we're going to get to a final audit. So they're well aware of that. So they've already baked that into their dollar amount that they're going to charge us. And then the other aspect is I don't know how you're going to get every 3 years to get a new audit firm in here. We only had 2 quotes out of how many that we put out, 8, and you only got 2 quotes in. So good luck with that part of it. So that's my take on it. I think that you know, it is disruptive and it is a lot more work than what Larry's letting on. Everything is not a twinkle of your nose and it gets done. Somebody's putting the effort in to get it done. So that's my take. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Walter and Terry both. So, is there any more conversation we need to have before we take a vote? When we take a vote, we'll have comment from the residents. We haven't gotten to a motion yet.
The only other item is that Beach is more expensive, and we are in a time when we should be looking to streamline expenses.
I'll make one comment, and I think Terry suggested it. I'm not an expert in any of this, believe me, but I am an expert in the fact that we made a very poor decision with regard to TEI. And that was an incredibly difficult time for the HOA and certainly the financial department to get through that, and we did get through it. We now have a stable software system that is working well for the HOA. It appears that we will still live through some TEI issues when the 2024 audit is performed. And that's what, Terry, I think you suggested, that you go back a year prior to the 2024 where TEI is. And I just, it's my opinion, Darren seems to think we should stay with what we have for 1 year. And I think on top of that, the idea of training the new firm on TEI issues when in the next year, in 2025, you won't have to do that anymore because you won't go back to that year. So if you hire a new firm, they'll all be North Star going forward, if I understand what you were saying is correct. So anyway, I'm in favor of staying with Beach Fleshman for 1 year, giving Darren a chance to get, as we've talked, his feet on the ground and not relive the TEI issue at all with a new firm. That's my opinion.
One little mistake there, Darren did not say that he recommended we stay with the same firm. He recommended that we ask for a 1 year with these firms.
Have we kicked the dog enough? And so I need a motion.
Oh, okay. So I guess I would move that we go ahead and go with a 1 year with Beach Fleischman. I don't understand the cost issue, but I think that's the thing to do. So that's my move.
Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second that we stay with Beach Fleshman for 1 year. I'll second Mark's motion.
Conversation from the board, discussion.
I think you're making a mistake.
Discussion from the residents.
My name's David Horner, Unit 47, Lot 121. I was an auditor for 35 years. I started my career with national firms. Spent the last 20 years probably with a top 100 firm in Omaha. All of the discussion I've heard so far, I don't have any real comments on. My biggest issue is the 2022 audit that had to be restated and how that came into being. As I understand it, and I'll admit I don't have all the facts, but there was apparently a mistake in late 22 that was caught by the staff in early 23, long before they started their field work for the 22 audit. And the fact that they missed a material misstatement that they had to restate in 23 for the 22 year, I have some real problems with that. And I think that is in itself enough reason to consider looking at another audit firm.
Janine Grippo, Unit 49, Lot 109. I would also look to the fact that you had to really pressure them to get the audit done and to get the taxes done. So as a very skilled project manager, I don't accept that not meeting your timelines, and I think I'd like to give CLA a chance.
Can I make another comment?
Yes, you can.
Okay. When Beach missed the deposit in transit in 22, there are audit procedures, normal audit procedures that should have caught that, and I think you'll agree with that. I was totally taken back with the restatement, and it got me doing some investigation into Beach. I knew that firm from the time it started, and I know a lot of people that used to work for them. So I started making some phone calls, and I didn't want to bring this up. I mentioned it to the board. It's not something you let the public in on. It's like a doctor saying, oh, I'm not going to say anything bad about that doctor, but I will say something bad about this firm. The people I talked to said that culture at Beach is to cut corners when it comes to audits. And that's exactly what they did on the 22 audit. They cut corners. They did not follow normal audit procedures. That alone would be a reason to not re-engage this firm. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
A quick question, shouldn't they have pulled that 2022 audit back? I mean, our bank was depending on that audit for the $6 million loan. Aren't you supposed to, I'm not an auditor, aren't you supposed to pull it back if you find an error?
Wait, I can't hear, when you're talking, you gotta come to the mic, I'm sorry.
He's going to answer my question since Larry's been pulled off.
The answer to Janine's question is yes. As soon as that audit firm became aware of a material misstatement in a previously issued report, they should recall their report and notify all users that they can no longer rely on that statement. So when the bank got a copy of the 22 audit, they should have been notified that they can no longer rely on it until the new report was issued whenever in June of 23. So
I want to make an amendment to the motion. The amendment would be to engage the firm of CLA firm as our auditors for 2024, one-year contract.
Do I have a second? I have a second. Chuck. So I have a motion on the floor and a second to consider a one-year contract for Beach Fleischman. I have an amended motion on the floor that we consider CLA for a one-year contract. Based on Robert's Rules of Order, we've got to deal with the amended motion first. And so, before the board for our decision right now is a vote to approve CLA as the audit firm after all the discussion and inputs we've had here for the 2025 audit. Is there any board discussion? 2024 audit, yes.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I'm not an accountant, so I have to kind of trust when you hear people that have done this for their career. I guess you have to kind of trust that. The cost thing to me is kind of a non-issue only because we have no guarantee that their $50,000 price won't go to $60,000 after they get into the 2023 year, so they could end up being more expensive or less expensive. But again, in the scheme of things for an $18 million business, quite frankly, I don't sweat a couple $1,000s. We got a lot bigger things to worry about that have much bigger impact on our financial health and well-being, so.
Does that mean Larry's swaying you? Okay, I'm just trying to follow.
The only thing I want to confirm, Larry, and I didn't understand it, but it seems as though, if I believe what you say, and I do, that my impression was that Darren suggested we renew Beach Fleischman. You're saying he only suggested a 1 year of somebody. Is that correct?
That's exactly correct.
Is that? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I
His
thought-
recommendation was new eyes.
I
would
understand.
be
Totally
good.
I totally believe that, and I totally appreciate that. And my impression before I heard that was that he had recommended Beach. If that's not true, then I'm going to change my mind on this whole thing. So I get it.
Well, the conversation, and Mr. Horner, I don't have any auditing experience either, and I've told this to Larry before. What I am trying to do is create as much stability as I can, bridging between Walter and Darren. And so I'm guilty of looking for the easy button and doing that. I've kind of lost my mind about the restatement in the audit process and forgot about it, to be honest with you. And so it is a significant point. And you've been very passionate about, Larry, you have been very passionate about wanting to move on from Beach Fleischman because of your engagement with people in the industry. And so I honor that. So is there any more conversation between members of the board? Any more discussion?
Matt, I'm still going to go back to the fact that our finance committee made a recommendation. And the recommendation is to go with Beach Fleischman. I'm hearing what Larry's saying. I'm hearing what Mr. Horn's saying. And yeah, that was not a great thing that happened. But we've got a brand new COO coming in. And if we switch to CLA, then there's going to be a whole lot of back work that's going to have to be done. Yeah, it needs to be done, but I'm not so sure it needs to be done December 2024, November and December 2024.
So my response, Sean, and I'll just respond because I can't speak for Campbell. We all, the finance committee, the board, the staff, we all want competent services for our corporation. That's what we're in pursuit of, is providing the best service to this community. That's what they deserve. And so I'm going to acknowledge we've had issues with Beach and leave it at that. Is there any other discussion with the board? Any other discussion from our members?
Dov Fletcher, member of the Finance Committee. Speaking for myself, I had voted for Beach Fleischman based on what I would expect some higher costs to come out of the what's the second company, CLA, in terms of reviewing the previous audit. There was a lot of information that's been given here tonight that was not available at the Finance Committee meeting. That's unfortunate, because some of that could have been presented, not all of it. We didn't know about the 1 year, but everything else that's been presented could have been presented to the Finance Committee, was not. But based on that information, I would probably have changed my vote.
Thank you, Duff. Any other comments from our members? Seeing no more comments, we have an amended motion in front of us to approve extending a 1-year contract to CLA to perform our 2024 audit. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So we have 6-1. Sean is the nay. That closes the matter on the audit. Mark?
Okay, I'm next up on it. This should be pretty quick. I wanted to give just a real quick review for those of you that don't know or don't remember. Back when the HOA decided in 2018 to purchase the golf courses, they did what I'd call an internal $2 million loan. They basically borrowed money internally to do that. And from basically the operations fund to the reserve fund, and so it was not really formally ever done from a paperwork standpoint. It's all our own books, so it's taking money out of one pocket, putting it in another. Be that as it may, that was done long before we were here. So we've been paying off that loan internally every year by transferring $100,000 extra over, and trying to rebuild that money back into the reserves. And so that's occurred now for 5 years, 6 years actually, because it started in 2018. So the balance of that loan is an internal obligation from the capital to the reserve fund is remaining is at about $1.3 million. So in my analysis and my proposal for the budget, which exists right now as the budget sits, my proposal is to go ahead and transfer that money right now and get that basically done. We've got a history of where we are with the operations fund over the last 2 to 3 years. We've consistently had a balance of about $3 million in that fund that's been sitting in savings. It's what I'd call a safety amount that's been in there. We've dipped under it very slightly, just a couple times, down to the 295 or something like that. And so it's not a matter of the fact that we don't have a lot of extra money that we've got and have had in the operations fund. And so it seems to me that particularly since we're trying to maximize the amount of money in the reserves for the upcoming expenses we've got over the next 5 years, which are significant, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to not go ahead and get all that money moved over right now. So that is the way I've done our financial plan at this point, is to plan on doing that. It saves us having to find the difference, another, whatever it would be, $800,000 someplace else, where there isn't a lot of other places to get it. So anyway, that's the explanation of what I'm doing. What it would do basically is we take $1.3 million transferred immediately over to the reserve fund from the operating fund. I, in my mind, would leave the $1.7 million in the operating fund as kind of a minimum safety margin. So instead of the safety margin being $3 million, it would be $1.7 million. After thinking about all the different things we have from an operations standpoint, I can't imagine what we could possibly have in the operations fund expense that would be an overage of $1.7 million that we wouldn't have planned for. I can't even imagine what that possibly could be. So I think it's still very conservative. So yes, so I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and transfer the $1.3 million over and get that internal loan done, cleaned up, and it helps us with achieving our next 5-year plan.
I have a motion and I have a second for the board's consideration to move $1.3 million out of the operations fund into the reserve fund. Board discussion.
Good idea.
I will say this. This idea was first floated by Joyce Howard 2 years ago in May when she did her board guidance that year, and I'd never forgotten it. And after a lot of the work with all of the challenges we've received from members this year about what we're doing in money and really looking hard at what we're doing in money, I want to congratulate Campbell Chaney and Mark Eckert. The money in the operations account, some $2 million, is now invested at money market rates. We had not done that in the past. And so we're doing the same thing in the operating fund that we've done in the reserve fund. And that means we're making more money for the corporation, and that's all good business. Did I ask the residents for comment?
Just a bit of a clarification, or maybe more of a question. I've been getting questions about when we purchased the golf course, why wasn't it paid, what fund was it paid out of and why? So my best answer that I could give people, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is we did not have a CIF. And since if we did have a CIF, it would have been a new asset to us and we would have used the CIF. We used operations because...
No, I'll answer your question, Janine.
Okay.
We had $5 million in our reserve fund when we crossed the LD on 1 January 2018.
Okay.
The corporation took $2 million out of the reserve fund and paid Robeson for the golf courses. So the $2 million was a loan out of the reserve fund, and the plan was to pay back $100,000 over the next 20 years from the operating fund to the reserve fund.
All right. Because reserves wouldn't have been used because it would have been maintenance for existing assets.
All I can tell you
which
is
it
what
wasn't.
happened back
Yeah.
then.
Okay. So
I'm not going to try to explain it.
all right. So that's what happened. So,
Yes, ma'am.
So the next people who ask me, I'm going to ask them to look at this video.
The CIF fund, I don't believe existed back then at that time anyway. And if it had, it wouldn't have had anywhere near enough money because it would have been just created.
No, it was approved in
It would have had no
2016.
money in it, so.
CIF was, Mark.
Was it 16?
The CIF, the amendment to the CCNRs was in 2016.
Was it? I was going by memory.
Yes, Mona?
I just had a question. If I recall, it was paid for out of a line item from Golf Operating Fund each year? Is that correct?
As
Payment-
far as how it was done in accounting, Terry can answer that question.
Okay. I seem to, years ago at least, it was, I think, a line item under golf, and the only thing I had to say is if it was or still was, then when we evaluate Troon's performance, you just have to adjust for that because it would show a sudden,
It's not an expense into golf right now.
okay,
Okay, it is not.
okay, then that takes care of that.
That's true, right? Right.
Okay.
We've spent a lot of time in that budget lately. I know that line item isn't in there.
Yeah, it might have been years ago, and it just seemed strange at the time to me, so.
So, just for clarification for all the residents, we have gone to extraordinary lengths in this developing the 5-year budget that we'll approve on 20 November, was to look at every resource bucket we have. We've been challenged by you, the residents, to do that. We've done that. And this is a move, part of that, is to maximize the dollars you've already given us to help meet the expenses, the $29 million worth of reserve expenses we have over the next 5 years, which includes the preserve golf course renovation. So what you're going to see in the 5-year plan is a steady, slow, progressive methodology to be allowed to pay cash for the preserve renovation in '29. This $1.3 million transfer means we don't have to ask you, the residents, for that money. So, I see no more. You want to say something?
I just wanted to confirm that we have been investing our reserve funds for some time, primarily with Schwab, but they've been in an investment account for some time. The ops question came up recently and has been changed, so we're now investing ops money. This money will go from ops to reserves, so it will start to accumulate interest in the reserve account going forward. And it's a significant amount of money. So it will also add to our reserve funds over time from that investment.
Steve?
Thank you. Steve Wiley, Unit 14. Acknowledge your point, Matt, that you are scouring a little more diligently on all the available resources. I applaud that. One thing I notice, we're in the plan, we're noting a bit more interest, a lot more interest, 140,000, if I remember correctly, in the ops fund for increased investment revenue. Right now, that's sitting in the plan, in the operating fund. So,
It'll get moved.
okay, it needs to get moved out, otherwise it'll be frittered away in operation. So I didn't know that was in the thoughts, just want to make that.
No, that's a good observation, Steve. It just, we're building this airplane in flight, huh, Terry? Terry got the budget posted on the website last night because he didn't get the electrons from our board treasurer until Monday. And so we've been working all of this very hard. But Steve's observation is right. Interest won't grow on the 1.3 in operating. When we move it over, it's going to grow in the reserve account. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Remind me where I'm at. Oh, I need, yeah, what do you need, Chuck? A vote, okay. We have a motion and a second to approve transferring $1.3 million from the operations fund to the reserve fund. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Larry, you're up, sir.
Okay. Well, I've got lots of numbers and everything, but I'm not going to put them up because it just confuses everybody. What we're going to talk about here is preserve funding, preserve golf course renovation funding. So there's a lot of misunderstanding about the methodology to do this. It's called component funding methodology. Let's just kind of set that aside and speak in plain English. All we're attempting to do is we realize that not too far down the road, we have a big nut to crack with the preserve golf course. And if history repeats itself, I feel really sorry for the board at that time because they will be revisiting the Mountain View Golf Course. So how do you get from here to there and have money set aside so that you can do this big project? And it's called component funding. Now, in some states, it's a law. In Arizona, it is not. So whatever we do not get confused with putting money aside and having it locked up and not usable for anything else. That is not the case here. So what we're doing is we're going to open up, or what we want to do is open up a separate savings account and start putting money every year into it and call it Preserve Golf Course Fund. Okay, now you could call it Savings Account 1 or Savings Account 2, but if we call it the Preserve Golf Course Fund, it would show up as a separate line item as a savings account on the financials every month, and the residents can then look at that and say, hey, we're saving some money to do the preserve course down in 2028, 2029, whenever we have all the information available to us to do it and the funds to do it. So that is the plan, and that is what we're talking about. So I've come up with a schedule based on Mark's numbers, giving the number of homes, given what the dues would be over the next 4 or 5 years. And what I came up with, and I'm going to explain what goes in there, by the end of 2028, was really only 4 years from now, we'd have about $9.5 million set aside. Now, I didn't take this in through 2029 because that's when the course would be scheduled to be done, and we don't know exactly what it's going to cost. If it costs more than $9 million, let's say it's 10 and a half, we could easily fund that in 2029. So, let me give you the pieces. The first piece to fund this, to put in the savings account, okay, would be the $1.3 million that we're just transferring over right now from ops to the reserve. That $1.3 million was to buy golf courses. So why not use it to renovate the next golf course? The next item I would put in there in this year to help establish this savings account would be the unused special assessment funds that we just got. The special assessment was basically to pay off the loan, so the balance could easily be earmarked for the next golf course. And the third item I would put in there in 2024 was we were scheduled to make 5 additional loan payments on the Mountain View loan. I mean, that was almost $600,000. So I would take that money also and put it in our new savings account. Now, don't get me wrong, it's already in a savings account. I would just put it in the new savings account and call it Preserve Funds, Preserve Golf Course Funds. So that's kind of the plan. Now let me tell you where the money's coming from. First of all, we would use SIF funds for 4 years, 25, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Then we would allocate some funds out of the normal reserve funds that come in each year to the tune of right at 600,000 for 4 years. Okay, for 4 years. This plan would also call for a few assessments of $100, $200, and $300. Now, we don't know what those assessments would be because the golf community would be supporting some of this rebuild. So once the plan is done and we have an idea of what are the renovation items and what might be enhancements that the golf community would cover, this 100, 200, and 300 may be something quite smaller, depending on how much of the rebuild would be covered by the golf community. But in my plan, I put in 100, 200, and 300 to get me to the 9.5 million. We just don't know who's going to cough up with that money. That with the interest that Mark has come up with at 4% next year, 3.5%, 3.25, and 3.25, gets us to $9,465,566. Just right at 9.5 million. Okay? So I hope that kind of explains what this component funding would mean in Arizona. Okay? Not by law. This would be something we would set up. And, you know, we all know that this bill's coming due. And back in 2018, those boards knew that Mountain View was going to come due, and not 1 cent was set aside to take care of it, and look what happened to us. It put us in the position we found ourselves this year. So we know this is coming due, and this is just a way for us to address the issue, kind of set up a blueprint for the future, and if it goes well, and we can do this, then maybe when we don't know of additional future items of large amounts, we can use the same methodology. So, questions from the board?
No, I think we've talked about this quite a bit, and I think Larry explained it really well, and I think it makes a lot of sense to do. I mean, you're basically taking a total amount of money that's in, you know, if you want to say your HOA pair of pants, and all you're simply doing is creating 2 pockets instead of 1 pocket. It doesn't change the total amount you need. It simply takes the pieces that we need strictly for the preserve instead of the other $21 million we need for everything else. And you say, okay, we're going to put money aside in one account that's going to be exclusively for that golf course, and then the other fund is going to be for the other $21 million of expenses that we need for everything else, roads and everything else. So right now, I've got a 10-year plan projection that gets us there. It's got, of course, a bunch of caveats. It assumes interest rates, it assumes expenses, it assumes all sorts of things. That's all you can really do with a 10-year projection is make assumptions. But based on that, we can get where we need to be in 2029. So all we would be doing is splitting up that one group into 2 different funds and moving stuff over as we need to. It's really just math. It's just playing with some Excel. It doesn't require any difference. So it works. You know, the money from the unused loan is already in there. I've already projected out where we're going to end at the end of 2024 from a reserve and ops standpoint. So that money's already in what we're going to have at the reserve at the end of the year. So it's just part of the big pile of money that we're going to have at the end, 6.2 million or whatever is what I project.
So you support the idea?
Yeah, I support the idea. I think
That's
it's a
good,
great
Mark.
idea.
It's
so.
12:10. We need to move on. Any other conversation?
I have a question for Larry. Larry, your preserve golf course renovation funding, should Helene or Milton or Hilton or whatever hit Arizona, and we were to have a huge expense, because none of us have a crystal ball, would this money only be used for golf court renovation, or I'm asking Larry, Chuck.
Yeah. It can be used for anything.
Okay, so you're not going to put any caveats on it or
There-
say it
you
only can be?
cannot. Arizona law does not allow you to do that. Any future board could invade these funds for anything. The hope is that they know the bill's coming due, and we don't have an emergency happen, and they keep funding this, because they don't have to fund it every year. I'm just saying, this sets the blueprint up, and it gives us a path forward to make sure that we meet that obligation of the preserve course.
Well, because you mentioned that the boards previous to us set us up, or 2 years ago set us up, so, we had to get that loan. Whatever. So
yeah.
what you're trying to do is prevent having the debacle that we had before, but boards are not tied to spending the money on golf.
That's exactly right. And like I say, we have a history, and we're just trying to avoid the history by planning far enough and ahead while we have funds coming in that we can plan to use. Like I say, it doesn't mean it can't be changed by another board.
Sean, this is about applying lessons learned about the experience of the community from 2018 through 2024. And Larry's absolutely right. If we don't have a 5-year plan in place and we don't build a blueprint, and Chuck has mentioned this many, many times, this board does not tell the next board what to do. All we can do is put a plan in place and hope that we were sane enough and smart enough to build a competent plan that each successive board will continue to perpetuate. That's all this board can hope to accomplish. Okay, we're not taking a vote, so there's no discussion beyond what we're having here. What you're going to find out is this will all be, Joe, you'll get a chance to talk here when we have, but I'm not taking a vote, so I'm not opening it up for conversation. You can ask me any question you want when we open it up. Upcoming events, October 31st, tomorrow, is the 2025 Budget Town Hall. Starts at 9 o'clock here in this theater. On November 1st, Bob Petronowitz wants you to know big things are happening at the Cornhole Court. Going to have a ceremony that starts at 2 o'clock, ribbon cutting at 2:30. I get that right? And then on November 20th is our next board meeting. And what I need to tell you, the agenda says that board meeting is at 10 a.m. That is inaccurate. The board meeting is moving to 0800, 8 o'clock on the 20th for November 20th to facilitate a schedule conflict that I have. So what's important about the 20 November board meeting is that that's where the budget gets approved for next year. And now I will adjourn the Board of Directors meeting and open us up for homeowner comments or questions.
Pat Lenz, Unit 45, Lot Number 4, member of longstanding of the Finance Committee and the Audit Subcommittee. Larry, I am disappointed in the fact that you said to this audience that numbers on a screen are too confusing. How many people have an accounting, business, or management education in this hall? And you just told us you couldn't put up a slide with numbers on it so that we could check it? And as far as I know, you've created a great column, which is a concept. But you didn't tell me what happens to the rest of the assets that are not golf-related over that 5-year time frame. If you're putting $600,000 in out of one bucket and all of the CIF, what's happening to the rest of the community?
And we owe the community that, Pat. You're absolutely right. That didn't get presented today. What was getting presented was a concept. It's incomplete, okay? It is not totally vetted with the big budget picture, and we owe you all that by the 20th of November. I can pledge to you that Larry and I are going to work on this so there's no doubts in this community's mind, and Mark and Terry, there's no doubt in anybody's mind on how we're going to get from here through 2029. That's the purpose of the 5-year budget. So we're going to address that.
Thank you.
And I have updated numbers to give to Mark today to implement into the 10-year plan.
Larry, the whole piece here, it's the big bucket and the little bucket. What you talked about today is the little bucket. What we owe the community is the big bucket conversation.
And just to address Sean's concern, this is not the same as a designated reserve, which we do with the SBCO, where you couldn't spend it for anything else but, for instance, Kids Closet or the scholarships. This is totally different from that.
Joe Coachella, 48-135. I just want to take this opportunity to thank the whole board for all the work you have done these few years. And a special shout out to Dan, Mark, Denise. Appreciate you you all being on the board and working the way you have. Mark, of course, we don't know whether you'll be back or not. And a big thank you also to Walter. Walter, we're going to miss you. Maybe you'll stay. You know where the skeletons are here for the last 10 or 12 years. Hard to make up for that, but maybe you'll stay. And I have just a quick clarifying question for Larry. I like the concept. I like the plan. It's great. But you mentioned putting the money into savings. Could you define savings? I mean, I would think a T-bill, 3, 6, or 9 month. Because we all know banks, they're the last to go up and the first to come down. So could you clarify what you mean by savings?
The highest interest rates we can get on this stuff. Now, if we put it into a long-term CD, that kind of locks up those funds, and that's not the purpose here. So it's going to be turned over to the treasurer, and it'll be put into the same type of funds that we have the large amount of money is now, and it's making what, 4.6
It's money
or
market
7?
rates.
The money market rates funds, yeah. That's why every year in the plan, the rate goes down.
Sure, yeah. No, that new Fidelity account, you can buy T-bills, or you can buy any maturity of U.S. Treasury all day long on that system. So thank you very much.
Any other questions, comments? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.